I'm Rabbi Shimon, and I'm 83 years old. 2 weeks ago, someone asked me about Proverbs 11:24 and why it's not taught more often in relation to financial transformation. That question has stayed with me, and today I want to share what I've learned from this verse over decades of study and observation. The verse says, "One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty." Before we go further, let me be clear. What I'm sharing is for spiritual encouragement and biblical reflection only. This is not professional financial advice. I'm sharing my interpretation of Scripture and observations from people who've shared their experiences with me. Your results may be completely different, and that's okay. If you're in financial crisis, please seek help from qualified financial counselors or community resources. If you find this perspective helpful, I'd appreciate if you'd like this video and subscribe to the channel. Comment, "I'm open to transformation," if this teaching resonates with you. Now let's explore this together. Money is one of the most emotionally charged topics we face. You might be working hard, trying your best, and still feeling anxious about your finances. The worry shows up when you wake up, when you make decisions, when you plan for the future. You've probably tried different approaches: budgeting more carefully, working additional hours, looking for new opportunities, praying for breakthrough. Some of these helped, but perhaps you're still not experiencing the peace or progress you hoped for. I've noticed something over my years of studying Scripture and listening to people's stories. Many approach money from a place of fear and scarcity, even when they have faith in other areas. And this mindset shapes everything: how we earn, save, spend, and give. Solomon, who wrote Proverbs, understood wealth differently than most. Here was the wealthiest king of his time, writing not about accumulation strategies, but about the spiritual principles underlying prosperity. Proverbs 11:24 contains one of these principles, and I believe many of us have read it without fully understanding what it teaches. Let me break down the Hebrew for you, because the original language reveals layers we miss in English. The phrase "gives freely" comes from the word mefazer, which literally means to scatter, like a farmer scattering seed. This isn't random giving. It's intentional distribution, like planting. When a farmer scatters seed, he doesn't lose it. He invests it with expectation of multiplication. The verse shows that the one who scatters gains even more. The Hebrew tense suggests ongoing, continuous gain. Not a one-time payoff, but a pattern of increase. This challenges our instinct to hold tight to what we have. The second part addresses the opposite. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. The word for withholds is chose, meaning to hold back something that should be released. It's not about wise saving or planning. It's about clutching when we should be circulating. And the result is machsor, meaning deficiency or lack. Here's what I find profound. The thing we fear most by giving, losing what we have, is actually what we create by withholding. It's counterintuitive. Our instinct says, hold on to survive. But Solomon observed a different pattern in how resources actually flow. This principle appears throughout Scripture, though the outcomes vary greatly. Think about the widow in 1 Kings 17. She had one handful of flour and a little oil, just enough for one final meal before she and her son would face starvation. When Elijah asked her to make him bread first, she was being asked to scatter her last resource. She did, and the text says the oil and flour didn't run out during the famine. That's one story. But Scripture also honestly shows people who gave and still suffered, who trusted and still struggled. The point isn't a guaranteed formula. It's a principle about generosity and trust. In 2 Kings 4, another widow faced debt. She had only a small jar of oil. The prophet told her to pour it into borrowed vessels, and as she poured, it multiplied until all the vessels were full. She sold the oil and addressed her debt. Again, the act of pouring, of releasing, preceded the multiplication. Or consider the feeding of the 5,000. A young boy had 5 loaves and 2 fish. In his hands, it was barely enough for himself. But when he released it, when it was broken and distributed, thousands were fed. The multiplication happened in the circulation, not in the hoarding. I'm not suggesting these stories guarantee financial miracles for everyone. Life is more complex than that, but they do reveal a consistent theme. Generosity, trust, and circulation seem to open possibilities that clutching and fear close off. Now, why would I suggest a 7-day practice around this verse? 7 is significant throughout Scripture. It appears in creation, in the fall of Jericho, in Naaman's healing. It represents a complete cycle. I found that sustained focus over 7 days can shift perspective and break habitual thought patterns. It's not magic. It's about creating space for transformation in how we think and what we notice. Let me share some experiences people have told me, and I want to be honest. These are their reports, and I can't verify every detail. Some may be interpreted through the lens of faith in ways others would see differently. I'm sharing them as examples of what people have experienced, not as promises of what will happen for you. A woman I'll call Deborah, who was 58 and retired, told me her daughter needed surgery that would cost about $12,000. Deborah had less than $1,000 available. She started reading Proverbs 11:24 each morning for a week and made a small donation to her church despite her situation. During that week, an old friend reached out and sent her $5,000, saying she'd been thinking of her. Her church had a program she didn't know about that gave her several thousand more, and her insurance company corrected an error that reduced her costs significantly. The timing felt meaningful to her. She needed about $20,000 total, and various sources provided close to that amount. Could this have happened anyway? Perhaps. But to her, the timing felt connected to her practice of generosity and trust. A man named Marcus, who owned a construction business, was short $22,000 for payroll. He was considering bankruptcy. He began this practice somewhat skeptically. Within the week, an old client paid a long-forgotten debt of $8,000. A new client hired him for multiple projects worth over $30,000, and his accountant found a missed tax credit worth several thousand. Marcus ended up with more than double what he needed. Did the practice cause this, or did it position him to notice and act on opportunities he might have missed in his anxiety? I can't say for certain. But his mindset shifted from desperation to openness, and opportunities followed. Not every story is about money appearing. Some people report subtler shifts, reduced anxiety about finances, more generous impulses, unexpected ideas for earning, or simply peace about their situation, even when numbers didn't change immediately. These internal transformations matter too, perhaps more than external ones. Here's what I suggest if you want to explore this principle. Get paper and pen. Write out Proverbs 11:24 in your own handwriting. One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. The act of writing engages you differently than just reading. Keep this paper somewhere you'll see it daily. For 7 consecutive days, read this verse aloud in the morning when you wake up and in the evening before bed. Not silently, out loud. Speak it slowly and thoughtfully. After reading it, you might say something like, I choose to live with an open hand. I trust that generosity creates space for increase. I release fear and embrace faith. This bookends your day with a different mindset about resources. You're training your consciousness away from scarcity and toward abundance thinking. Now, here's an important part. During these 7 days, give something. It doesn't have to be money if you're genuinely struggling financially. It could be time, help, a kind gesture, or resources you have in surplus. If you can give money, give what feels generous but not reckless. Please don't give beyond your means or create hardship for yourself or your family. This isn't about earning God's favor through sacrifice. It's about practicing the principle of circulation that the verse describes. When you give cheerfully, not reluctantly or fearfully. Give because you're choosing to operate from trust rather than fear. The amount matters less than the consciousness behind it. $5 given with joy and faith carries more spiritual weight than 500 given with resentment. Some important warnings and clarifications. This practice should never replace wise financial planning, professional advice, or addressing practical issues in your life. If you're in debt, you still need a budget. If you need income, you still need to pursue work. This is a spiritual practice that may shift your perspective and open your awareness, not a substitute for practical action. Don't give money you need for essentials like rent, food, or medicine. Don't go into debt to give. God doesn't honor foolishness disguised as faith. This principle works within the context of wisdom and responsibility, not instead of it. Don't expect identical results to the stories I shared. Every situation is unique. Some people report dramatic financial changes. Others report internal peace and clarity. Some experience shifts in relationships or opportunities that don't look like money, but prove valuable. Some may see little external change, but develop a healthier relationship with generosity. All of these are meaningful outcomes. This is not a guaranteed formula. It's a biblical principle that many have found helpful, but life includes mystery, suffering, and circumstances we can't control through any technique. Faith isn't about manipulating outcomes. It's about trust in God's character, even when outcomes disappoint us. If you're in serious financial crisis, debt collectors calling, facing eviction, please reach out to local community services, financial counselors, or crisis assistance programs. This teaching is meant to complement, not replace, practical help. What might you notice during 7 days? Day 1. You might feel awkward or skeptical. That's normal. You're trying something new. Day 2 or 3, you might notice your thoughts about money shifting slightly. Less anxiety, more curiosity. Day 4 or 5, you might see small synchronicities, a returned phone call, an unexpected refund, a thought about a resource you'd forgotten. Don't dismiss these. Receive them with gratitude. You might also face doubts. This isn't working. I feel foolish. That's your old mindset resisting change. Keep going. Day 6 or 7, you may notice larger shifts. A conversation that leads somewhere, an idea that feels inspired, an opportunity you wouldn't have noticed before. Or you might simply feel different inside, more peaceful, more generous, more trusting. After 7 days, I'd encourage you to continue this practice in some form. Maybe not twice daily, but regularly. Let this verse become part of how you think about resources. Money isn't something to hoard in fear. It's something that multiplies as it circulates through you with wisdom and generosity. The goal isn't to get rich. It's to develop the character of someone who trusts God's provision enough to live generously. Multiplication may be a byproduct of that character transformation, but the transformation itself is the real prize. Let me recap 3 key points. First, Proverbs 11:24 teaches that generosity and circulation, not fearful accumulation, align with how God designed resources to flow. Second, a 7-day practice of reading this verse and giving something can help shift your consciousness from scarcity to abundance. Third, this is a spiritual discipline for character development, not a technique for guaranteed financial results. You have a choice. You can continue approaching money with the same fear and scarcity mindset. Or you can experiment with this biblical principle for 7 days and see what happens internally and externally. You risk nothing but your old patterns. You might gain a new perspective, new opportunities, or at minimum, a more generous heart. If this teaching has been helpful, please subscribe to this channel and share it with someone who might benefit. Comment below, "I'm open to transformation," if you're willing to try this practice. Let me close with a blessing based on Scripture, not as a guarantee, but as a hope I hold for you. May God supply all your needs according to His riches. May you know the peace that comes from trusting Him rather than your circumstances. May generosity become natural to you. May you experience His faithfulness in unexpected ways. May your character grow in trust, wisdom, and open-handedness. May you discover that when you live with an open hand, life flows differently. I pray this for you, and I release you to walk in whatever God has for your journey. This has been shared with humility, knowing I don't have all answers. I'm simply a student of Scripture, sharing what I've learned and observed. Take what helps, leave what doesn't. And may your relationship with God deepen through whatever comes. Your soul is the blueprint. Your life is the construction. Shalom, my friend.